In this world, those who possess the power to fight monsters were called raiders. They battle demons, collect treasures, and protect humanity along the way. Though the work is dangerous, people see them as heroes. They're admired by many and envied by others. After all, who wouldn't be excited by the thought of fighting and uncovering hidden treasures? Naturally, those who can't land such jobs often feel jealous. Our story begins in a bustling restaurant where everything seems normal, until someone starts shouting. That person is our main character, Jae-hyun, who's furious after learning that his role in an upcoming raid is just to act as a meat shield. The guy in glasses quickly tells Jae-hyun to calm down, reminding him that he was the one eager to earn quick cash, and this is the only job on the table. Despite dragging his feet, Jae-hyun doesn't really have a better option. He then tells us that the guy in glasses is Young-won, who works at a raider agency. His job is to assign people like Jae-hyun, who aren't part of any guild, to various missions. Jae-hyun had high hopes when Young-won contacted him, thinking he landed a good gig. But instead he got thrown into a frontline dungeon job filled with undead monsters, essentially disposable cannon fodder. Young-won tries to justify it by saying this was the only job available. Jae-hyun, frustrated, wonders why lower-ranked people are landing better jobs. Young-won reminds him of his martial arts class with excellent skills yet almost no job offers. Jae-hyun gets even more annoyed, suspecting he's being underestimated, just because he is a martial arts raider. Young-won hesitantly agrees, explaining that magic users dominate the market. They're more efficient, get injured less often, and complete tasks quicker. Employers notice those things. The reality is harsh. Unlike mages who can cast spells safely from behind the lines, martial arts raiders are always on the front lines, more exposed, more hurt. Mages clearly had an upper hand. Jae-hyun recalls how about 10 years ago, martial arts raiders were highly valued, but those days are long gone. He regrets not becoming a mage when he had the chance. It all started when he was a third-year high school student. He scored remarkably high in the Awakening aptitude test. He was selected for one of the elite academies dedicated to training raiders. His aptitude score for becoming a mage was an astounding 97%, nearly perfect, even than top students like Lady Siona. Yet his martial arts aptitude was only 30%. Still, he foolishly chose to become a martial raider, not for some noble cause. He simply didn't want to be a mage. At that time, mages were seen as support-only types. They are incapable of handling even weak monsters without a martial arts raider nearby. But times have changed. Martial arts raiders are now seen as obsolete, while mages are in high demand. If only he had chosen to be a mage 11 years ago, his life might have been very different. Even if you wanted to change classes now, it's too late. Raiders hit their peak by age 20. No room for growth after that. Well, no use crying over the past. Young-won reminds him how rare opportunities like this are nowadays, and tells him not to be picky. He admits he was going to give the job to someone else, but chose Jae-hyun instead, thinking of him first. Hearing that, Jae-hyun feels a mix of sadness and irony. He was once envied by others who wanted to be mages, but now, due to one poor decision, he's just a D-rank martial arts raider. Out of options, he finally accepts the job. Young-won lights up happy that Jae-hyun agreed. As he's about to leave, the manager tells him they'll meet the next day at 8 a.m., and the address is already on his phone. Jae-hyun wonders why the manager will be there in person, since he usually handles agency work. Young-won shrugs it off and says he has business there, so they'll meet anyway. The next day, everyone gathers outside the dungeon gate. Jae-hyun stands alone, checking the time. Young-won still hasn't arrived, which makes Jae-hyun nervous. He sighs, thinking that Young-won should probably be working with stronger raiders. After all, Young-won is an A-rank mage, while Jae-hyun is just a D-rank martial artist. Jae-hyun wonders why Young-won is even stuck working at a raider agency when he could easily join any guild he wants. If you were in Young-won's shoes, you would have left long ago. Suddenly, a dark thought creeps in, someone calling him a useless loser. It seems like an inner voice, but we're not sure yet. Lost in thought, he hears someone calling out to him. It's Mung-ho, an old friend dressed in full armor. They chat a bit, and Mung-ho proudly declares that martial arts raiders are still cool. Unlike those fireball-throwing mages he calls useless hobos. Jae-hyun doesn't share the same sentiment. Being a martial arts raider is anything but glamorous these days. Still, Manhwa encouraged them to do their best and suggests getting drinks after the raid. Jae-hyun agrees, but quickly adds that he's broke. Manhwa reminds him that he paid last time. Jae-hyun looks embarrassed, but Manhwa kindly offers to cover the tab again. Jae-hyun chuckles and apologizes for always mooching off of him, but deep down, he thinks Manhwa is just too nice for his own good. Suddenly, someone arrives and announces that everyone should gather at the dungeon gate. They'll be entering in 30 minutes. Tension fills the air. No one seems to like this guy giving orders, not even Jae-hyun. The armor guy returns to his team while Jae-hyun checks his phone, anxiously waiting. In dungeons, raiders need to be cautious of two main things. The first one is the treasure. If they stumble upon it, greed can overwhelm them. That's when dungeons tend to test raiders, often with deadly consequences. Most don't survive those tests. The second danger will have to wait because that same guy butts in again. He mocks Jae-hyun, joking that he must be staring at his girlfriend's photo. Jae-hyun brushes it off, but the truth is, he was actually looking at a photo of his mother. After a quiet moment to himself, he steps into the dungeon. Inside, mages stay behind while martial arts raiders move to the front lines. Only mindless schools are charging. Then, a bossy wizard begins shouting at the martial raiders, ordering them to form up, even if it means risking their lives. This is exactly what Jae-hyun hates about the job, being barked at by arrogant spellcasters. Still, he has no choice but to follow orders. Inside, mages stay behind, and while martial arts raiders move to the front lines, the mages begin casting spells, hurling fireballs that scorch the zombies. Jae wonders if these mages are from the Meteor Guild, which was a rookie group not long ago, but it turns out they're not. He figures today won't be his last, thanks to the strong backup. Manhwa takes a quick break, gulps down some water, and says it's finally time to take down the dungeon boss. The old man jokes about aging, saying he can't keep up like he used to. He asks Jae if he's picked up any loot yet. Ranked dungeons usually drop good items. Jae opens his system window to check, but it immediately glitches and a sharp headache hits him. A message appears: Asura system down. Disconnecting user. Another follows. System failed to reboot due to unknown error. Jae has never seen anything like this before. Then suddenly, a strange voice echoes in his mind, telling him to follow the light. He turns and sees glitching messages warning of an unknown entity breaching the system. He's completely lost. The old man notices and asks if something's wrong. Jae says someone told him to follow the light. Right then, tiny glowing orbs appear in the air, and only Jae can see them. He wonders if these lights are what the voice meant. Despite confusion, he follows them. The old man watches, puzzled by Jae's strange behavior. Jae insists he'll be back soon and heads off alone. After walking for a while, he finds himself in a hidden area. A system window appears, declaring that the ACR system is disabled and no status data can be loaded. He tries interacting with it, but it's unresponsive. A new notification says the system is partially damaged and will attempt to reboot in safe mode. Jae scratches his head. Since awakening at age 10, the system has never failed, not once in 17 years. He wonders if that voice he heard is related to the system glitching out. Messages keep repeating, but he presses on, following the light. He starts to think something deeper is changing within the system. For context, the Asura system is believed to be named after the Aesir gods of Norse myth like Odin and Thor. It supposedly appeared in 2011, during the year of disaster, as humanity's last line of defense. That year, an enormous tree suddenly sprouted in the center of the Pacific Ocean. It soared to unimaginable heights in just 9 days, and casting a foreboding shadow over the world. This terrifying tree was none other than Yggdrasil, the legendary world tree of myth. When Yggdrasil fully bloomed on the 9th day, chaos engulfed the globe. Waves of monstrous creatures descended upon humanity. Half of the global population perished, while the survivors faced famine and relentless plagues. Amidst the despair, true heroes emerged, wielding divine powers that brought a faint glimmer of hope. People gradually awakened to the ACO system, becoming raiders to battle the monstrous threat. From that moment, Asura became humanity's ultimate weapon. But now our hero suspects the Asura system may be changing, and not for the better. As he reaches a dead end, he suddenly spots a green door. Shocked at first, a smile soon spreads across his face. He realizes he's found a treasure gate. Treasure gates are secret chambers hidden within dungeons, incredibly rare even in high-level zones. They're known to house special items and valuable materials worth millions of won, the local currency. Jae-hyen's mind races as a rank or higher equipment piece could completely turn his dull life around. He silently prays for luck as he steps inside. The interior feels surreal, like a heavenly registration office. On a pedestal lies a radiant item. Jae-hyen had only heard rumors of such places, but never imagined he'd stumble into one himself. Overjoyed, he reaches out. As his fingers touch the object, a barrage of system notifications appears. The first confirms he has restored a damaged system feature. The second reveals a newly discovered item. The third invites him to view the item's details. Grinning, Jae-hyen believes his prayers might have been answered. The item turns out to be Odin's lost eye, a mythical ranked artifact. This legendary item, once sacrificed by Odin at Mimir's well for wisdom, grants its wielder access to rune writing and the ability to reverse engineer or destroy magic. It's the only mythical ranked item in existence, and once equipped, it becomes permanently bound to the user. The eye shines so brightly that Jae-hyen can't look directly at it. As he checks the system panel, he learns about its active skill, absolute calculation, an X-ranked ability that deconstructs and neutralizes magical structures. The mana cost depends on the rank of the magic being destroyed. Mastery of rune magic allows the user to wield full-powered magic without incantations. It also enables the use of blank cards to copy opponents' abilities. The eye is a powerhouse, but Jae-hyen, practical as ever, decides to sell it. The potential profit is in the hundreds of millions. No more grunt work or meat shield duties. However, he's tempted to try it on just once. But the system immediately warns him, once equipped, it cannot be removed. Knowing he's already past the prime age of 20 for using such gear effectively, he chooses not to wear it. After this fortunate encounter, he returns to his party. Meanwhile, the old man reassures the group that Jae-hyen will be back soon, and right on cue, he arrives. Jae-hyen quickly apologizes for being late and promises it won't happen again. As the group prepares to move out, the old man pats him on the chest, encouraging him. Jae-hyen responds cheerfully, saying he'll be treating everyone to drinks tonight. The old man is surprised, scratches his head. Something has clearly changed in Jae-hyen. Inside a dungeon where laws don't apply, revealing the discovery of such a powerful item could be fatal. Even trusted companions wouldn't hesitate to kill for it. So Jae-hyen keeps quiet. Suddenly, the ceiling cracks. Before the leader can give orders, it collapses. Jae-hyen instinctively leaps backward, crashing to the ground. Purple mist floods the chamber, and party members begin coughing violently, blood oozing from their mouths. Jae-hyen immediately covers his face and runs, yelling for his friend to flee, because the fog is poisonous. But he freezes at a horrifying sight. His friend is impaled by a sword from an unseen attacker. With his last breath, the friend urges Jae-hyen to run. In shock, Jae-hyen escapes, realizing this was a planned ambush. As he catches his breath, his face drenched in sweat, he's completely baffled. Why is someone trying to kill him? Then he senses someone behind him. A fiery arrow suddenly blasts into the ground ahead of him. The attacker steps into view. It's Young-won, someone he recognizes immediately. Young gathers mana at his fingertips, saying casually, "You promised to meet me today." Jae-hyen demands to know if Young was behind the attack on the Meteor Guild and the poison fog. Young smirks and shamelessly admits it. He reveals that clients hired him for the job. Many resent the Meteor Guild's arrogance. Jae-hyen grits his teeth and shares insight about dungeon assassination contracts, where dungeon chaos is exploited to carry out murder. The Meteor Guild, it turns out, wasn't so innocent either. Jae-hyen's shoulder throbs from an earlier arrow wound. He knows he can't fight Young head-on. The man isn't a ranked magician in the country's top 2%. Jae-hyen, in contrast, is barely mid-tier. Still, he fears he might be killed just to tie up loose ends. As a sense of justice stirs within him, especially for his comrade Manhwa, Jae-hyen knows now isn't the time for reckless moves. He promises not to tell anyone. But Young ignores him and attacks again, firing chains of flame. Jae-hyen barely dodges but gets grazed. 1 second slower and he'd be dead. As Young relentlessly attacks, Jae-hyen wonders why he's the target. He's just a daring raider. Bruised and battered, he hears a voice in his head mocking him again, the voice of his father. Suddenly, a terrifying realization strikes. Could his father be behind the assassination? Jae-hun blurts the question out. Young freezes, then begins laughing maniacally, confirming it. Jae-hun's thoughts flash to his mother, the grief. The day her lifeless body left him in tears. He asked Young, did his father order her murder 5 winters ago? Grimly, Young confirms it. Jae-hun can't comprehend why a father would do this. Young fires another arrow, mocking Jae-hun's situation. He conjures several more fiery projectiles, preparing to end it. But Jae-hun activates Odin's eye. The confident smirk on Young's face vanishes. Magical energy surges inside Jae-hun, growing rapidly. Young panics. He launches a fire arrow, expecting Jae-hun to flee, but it disintegrates mid-air. The eye has fully awakened. The system confirms it. Jae-hun smirks, feeling the power coursing through him. A notification pops up, blank card ready. Young is stunned. Jae-hun copies Blitz's chain, Young's own signature spell, and vows to bring him a painful end. He conjures blazing arrows while Young struggles to grasp how his precious skill is being used against him. Despite trembling, Young warns that taking him down won't be easy. Jae-hun confidently unleashes a barrage of arrows. Young retaliates, but Jae-hun holds the upper hand. As Young tries to escape, he prepares a massive blitz chain attack, but Jae-hun counters with absolute calculation, erasing it effortlessly and sending his own arrow flying. Young hastily throws up a magical barrier, but Jae-hun disintegrates that too. His arrow hits its mark. As the dust settles, Jae-hun approaches the defeated Young-won, who now begs for his life. In a dramatic moment, tears stream down Young's face, but Jae-hun shows no mercy. He fires a final arrow, ending it. Exhausted, Jae-hun collapses, thinking bitterly about how he finally obtained a mythical item, only to brush death so closely. As a raider, death was always near, but never had it stared so directly back. Now that he's staring it in the face, it's a whole different feeling. He starts feeling that coldness creeping in. Then, out of the blue, a system window pops up talking about a new download. It offers him a way out if he activates. The system reveals that Jae-hyun can now leap back in time, fully aware that he's moments away from death anyway. The resigned yet determined smirk, he simply says, "Yeah, sure, let's do this." At his command, a new system called Nornir activates. Suddenly, we're transported to a surreal scene. Divine, ethereal women appear, speaking in a mysterious language far beyond our comprehension. One of them, a blonde figure, reaches out, possibly grasping Jae-hyun's hand as the next chapter begins to unfold. Just as the scene unfolds, the once friendly blue system windows suddenly shift to a menacing shade of red. A chilling notification appears. Our hero has officially become a major enemy of the High Aesir. Along with that, he gains 2 passive skills, but now, half of the Aesir gods are watching his every move. In the blink of an eye, Jae-hyun jolts awake in his bed, eyes wide with terror as if he's just seen a ghost. His surroundings feel surreal, like he's caught between 2 realities. He lifts his hand and a small red flame-like orb begins to flicker in his palm. The system calmly informs him that he's successfully returned to the chosen point in time. Suddenly, vivid memories flood his mind, his mother's lifeless body. The fierce confrontation with young Won, then, as if by miracle, he sees his mother again alive. Without hesitation, he throws his arms around her, holding her tightly, unwilling to let go, silently begging that this isn't just another cruel illusion. But this time, it's real. Later, back in his room alone, a sharp pain in his chest yanks him back to the present moment. The system confirms. The current date is November 15th, 2020. His regression has been successful. His body has already healed by 20%. Gasping for air, Jae-hyun glances around, heart pounding. Everything is familiar. He's home, no dream, no illusion. This is real. A system notification appears presenting a quest titled, "Rest is the Mother of Success." The objective is straightforward. Jae-hyun must rest until he's fully recovered. If he completes this task, he'll be rewarded with a valuable blank card. Letting out a deep breath, he tries to steady his nerves. Thoughts race through his mind. He remembers how he died fighting that man, and somehow, the system brought him 11 years into the past. He's now back in the 3rd year of middle school. Curious, he checks the calendar and confirms it. He hasn't enrolled in Mills Academy yet. Then he notices a handwritten note, clearly from his past self, urging him to choose the martial arts path. But without hesitation, he grabs a pen and crosses it out. There's no way he's going to waste this second chance. This time, he's becoming a mage, no compromises. In the next scene, we find Jae-hyun having dinner with his mother, struggling to hold back the tears welling in his eyes. She watches him closely, concerned by his unusual behavior. Earlier, when she came home, he had embraced her tightly and cried without explanation. Sensing something's off, she gently asks if anything is bothering him. Forcing a smile, he brushes it off, saying it was just a nightmare. But deep down, he knows those memories of her death are no mere dreams. Finally, he musters the courage to speak. He tells her there's something important he wants to talk about. She listens attentively, already suspecting that he may be hesitant about enrolling in Mu's Academy. Understanding the intense competition and danger involved in that path, she reassures him that it's okay to choose a regular school. Instead, she won't push him. But to her surprise, Jae-hyun reveals that he actually wants to switch majors and pursue the magic class. His mother laughs softly at the sudden shift, startled but supportive. Though he was previously so set on martial arts, she trusts his instincts. With a warm smile and a gentle pat on his cheek, she tells him to follow his heart, whether it's martial arts or magic, and not to worry about the costs. She backs him up no matter what. Her acceptance moves him to tears once again. Amidst his emotions, memories of his father, Minyongo, and a rank raider, surface, reminding him of his vow to become stronger and take revenge. Motivated, Jae-hyun begins training seriously, starting with push-ups. He even earns his first blank card for completing the rest quest. His body is gradually getting lean and toned, honestly, something I envy myself. Jae-hyun still doesn't fully understand how the Norner system works, but as long as it keeps helping him, he's not complaining. With the knowledge from his past life, he's confident he can dominate dungeons and make smart decisions. His past as a dungeon guide gives him a real advantage. However, beyond his martial arts background, his skill set is still limited. The only active skills he has are absolute calculation and blitz chain, both copied from young woman. Leaning back in his chair, he opens the system interface to check his stats. His level and attributes seem to have reset with the regression, but he's retained all of his passive skills along with two new ones, one who is observed by the gods, and the other, Supreme God's Eye. Both are already maxed out. One who is observed by the gods grants him divine blessings, accelerating his growth and preserving his passive skills through regression. It also boosts all his stats by 1 point every time he levels up. It's no wonder many of the AC or demigods are watching him now. Then there's Supreme God's Eye, a powerful passive skill that lets him see through illusions and perceive hidden truths. And finally, the active skill Blitz Chain allows him to strike enemies with electrified chains, sometimes paralyzing them. The more chains he conjures, the more mana it consumes. Jae-hyun checks his stats. Unsurprisingly, most are at rock bottom, but his focus is locked on improving his magic stat, a vital trait for any mage. He also knows that endurance is equally crucial. After all, those long battles require stamina to survive. Thinking strategically, he decides to use his recently earned blank card to copy a healing skill. He already has an offensive one, so a healing ability will make him more well-rounded. Even in 2020, when mages often get overlooked, healers are still revered, treated like VIPs across the raiding world. But there's a problem. Finding someone with a healing skill is incredibly difficult. It's like trying to find a needle in a haystack. In his past life, he wasted his blank card in a battle with young woman. This time, he's not making that mistake. He has no clue how many blank cards the system will provide, so he's not taking any chances. Suddenly, his phone rings. His eyes widen when he sees the caller-eyed Kim Yu-young, his childhood friend. They had always dreamed of attending Mills Academy together to become raiders, but in his previous life she died in his arms. A tragedy he refuses to let happen again. He reads her text. It's about a seminar being held by Sengse's Yu-young, and excitement sparks in his eyes. She's a legendary figure known for her rare healing abilities, especially her mastery of the magic of sacrifice. Without wasting another second, Jae-hyun throws on his hoodie and tells his mom he'll be back soon. Outside, he replies to Yoo-young, letting her know he's on his way. Meanwhile, a Rolls-Royce is weaving through city traffic. Inside sits Sinx's Yoo-young Ann, silent and composed as her manager briefs her on her packed schedule. He expresses concern about her health, pointing out she's been overworking herself. She responds gently, saying she's just tired, and reminds him, sacrifice often requires giving up one's own vitality. The manager, clearly distressed, wishes they had someone with healing powers on par with Lady Shanjin. He fears it's only a matter of time before Yoo-young collapses from exhaustion. Back at the event venue, Jae-hyun and Yoo-young arrive. She's practically dragging him through the crowd in her eagerness. He playfully teases her, asking if she brought him just because she was scared of getting lost. Embarrassed and flustered, she denies it, but her silence speaks volumes. He chuckles again, poking fun at how someone so smart could have such a terrible sense of direction. Though she gives him a hard time, he silently thanks her. This seminar could be life-changing. If he can copy Yoo-young's sacrificial healing skill, it would catapult him to the top-tier ranks of Korea's rating world. As the crowd settles into their seats, they're both awed by the scale of the audience. But it's no surprise. Yoo-young is the Guildmaster of Lotus, a national icon and one of the best healers around. Unlike other high-ranking raiders who treat allies as expendable, she prioritizes the safety of her team. Then she appears on stage, greeted by thunderous applause. Jae-hyun waits for the perfect moment to act. He quietly mutters that in just 2 months, she fall critically ill during a dungeon raid due to overusing her sacrificial magic. He believes he's the only one who might be able to save her if he can successfully copy her skill today. While he's deep in thought, Yoo-young is fangirling hard, which mildly annoys him. On stage, Yoo-young begins her address. She talks about the world's current chaos, how Yggdrasil's tree and monsters are devouring lives. Still, she offers hope, reminding everyone that awakeners are humanity's last line of defense and encourage them to become raiders. Her words resonate with the crowd and with Jae-hyun too. He reflects on how tough it is to fight on the front lines, and how he once tried to sell Odin's eye just to escape the life of a raider. As they leave the venue, Yoo-young continues praising the Sinxes. Jae-hyun can't resist teasing her again, saying he already called her mom to pick her up because of her poor sense of direction. Annoyed, she offers him a ride too, but he declines, saying he has other things to take care of. Before leaving, he casually mentions that he's changed his career path and is now fully committed to becoming a mage. He also hints that he'll need her help in the future. Then, without further explanation, he walks off, leaving her confused and a little hurt. Outside, Jae-hyun scans the area and eventually spots the Sanctus's car. A smirk spreads across his face as he approaches. But her manager intercepts him, saying she's not seeing fans right now. Jae-hyun calmly responds that he's not here for an autograph, he's here to speak with director Yoo-young herself. The manager scoffs, irritated, and tells him to scram, warning that even the director would find his presence rude. But Jae-hyun doesn't back down. He boldly claims that he knows Lady Yoo-young and is suffering from an incurable disease, and that he's the only one who can heal her. The manager freezes, visibly shaken. Then, enraged, he grabs Jae-hyun by the collar, demanding to know where he got such information. Jae-hyun remains calm and simply gestures toward the onlookers, silently warning not to make a scene. Right then, a window rolls down. The Sinxes herself addresses him, asking if he can truly back up his words. With complete confidence, Jae-hyun nods and says, "Yes, I can cure your illness." Though clearly hesitant, she decides to give him a chance after all. If he's lying, it'll be obvious soon enough. Despite Jae-hyun's unwavering confidence, the Sinxes finds his demeanor even more suspicious. Still, intrigued by his audacity, she instructs her manager to make time for him and arrange a more private setting where they can speak away from prying eyes. Once they relocate to a quieter space, the Sinxes wastes no time. "How do you know about my condition?" she asks, her tone serious. Jae-hyun offers a brief apology but holds firm. "I can't tell you that," he says flatly, "and if that's a deal-breaker, I won't treat you at all." She's taken aback, more amused than offended by his boldness. With a chuckle, she lets the matter slide and moves on to the next question. "Then tell me," she says, eyes narrowing, "how exactly do you plan to treat me?" Jae-hyun doesn't flinch. "I intend to copy your sacrifice skill. that silences the room. The Senses is visibly shocked, but her manager is the first to react, bursting out in anger. Do you even understand what you're saying? That skill is unique, you can't just copy it, he barks, clearly at his limit. Do you even know what a unique skill means? That kind of power belongs to Lady Yu Yang and no one else. Before we go any further, here's some context on unique skills. They're classified as is ranked the highest tier of abilities in the world. These skills can't be learned from manuals or shared through training. They're either inherited by bloodline or manifested through intense personal evolution. The formulas behind them are incomprehensible and unreplicable. In other words, they're one of a kind, meant to remain exclusive to the individual or their lineage. Jae-hyun raises a hand, calming them both. His voice is steady, firm. I know exactly what I'm saying, he says. If I didn't understand the nature of unique skills, I wouldn't have come here at all. The Senses immediately turns to her irate manager and tells him to stand down. It won't take long, she assures him calmly, her eyes still on Jae-hyun. Then she asks the question that matters most. Can you really do what you claim? Jae-hyun nods with complete confidence. We learn here that her unique skill, sacrifice, comes with a heavy penalty. It can only be healed by another skill of equal or higher rank, which is rare in itself. But the irony is cruel. The sacrifice skill, which offers powerful healing, can't be used on the caster. It requires an offering to the gods, meaning she's incapable of healing her own body with it. Despite her lingering doubts, the Senses gives Jae-hyun permission to proceed. As she activates her magical aura, her body begins to glow faintly with divine light. Jae-hyun's heart races. This is it, the system interface appears before him. Sacrifice skill detected. Would you like to register this into your blank card? Without hesitation he answers, yes. The skill copies successfully, and Jae-hyun immediately activates it. A radiant golden light forms in his hand, the power of sacrifice now his to command. Both the Senses and her manager are stunned by the sight. He had really done it. But Jae-hyun doesn't jump into healing her just yet. There's business to handle. Before that, let's break down what this newly acquired skill actually does. Healing Wave, it emits a pulse of energy that heals multiple allies simultaneously and removes negative debuffs. Judgment of Light. Against undead enemies, the skill transforms into a powerful holy attack. Zero penalties. Because the skill was copied via a blank card, it retains full power without any of the original drawbacks. Now it's time for negotiations. The Senses, while impressed, asks what he wants in return. Her words are polite, but internally, she's confident. After all, this is just a kid middle school age and she's the leader of one of the top guilds in the nation. Jae-hyun doesn't waste a second. I want your sponsorship, he says plainly. She raises an eyebrow. Just to help you grow as a raider? He nods, exactly. I have the will, but I need the resources, the network, the backing. That's the only way I can get stronger. Impressed by his resolve and ability, the Senses agrees, but she adds a condition. That surprises Jae-hyun. Even though she's clearly in no position to negotiate, she's still bold enough to put terms on the table. She explains, my illness is personal. It doesn't involve the Lotus Guild. Sponsorship isn't just about me. You're asking for the support of an entire organization that owes you nothing. Jae-hyun considers that. So name your conditions, he replies. If they're fair, I'll agree. He braces himself for all kinds of possible demands. But her offer is surprisingly simple. Join the Lotus Guild. He blinks. You're serious? She smiles, then lays out her reasons. He uncovered her secret illness, something only a handful of people in the world knew. That alone proves he has elite-level intelligence gathering skills. He successfully copied her unique skill, something she didn't think was possible. She's curious, could there be more people like him? Jae-hyun listens quietly, but deep inside he's sweating. There's no way he can tell her the truth, that he learned about her condition because he regressed in time, or that he only copied her skill thanks to a cheat-like system he barely understands himself. The Senses leans in uncomfortably close to Jae-hyun and reveals the third reason. She wants him in the Lotus Guild. Despite being just a middle schooler, he didn't even flinch when facing the guild's representative. She finds his boldness intriguing. Jae-hyun reflects quietly. In his previous life, the Lotus Guild collapsed soon after her death. But now that she's alive, he's confident the guild will rise and joining them might be his fastest path to growth. Still, there's one problem. He's a minor, and signing official contracts with underage individuals is illegal. Sensing his concern, the Senses smiles knowingly. She reminds him of the right of priority negotiation, a legal clause that allows a guild to support and invest in an underage raider trainee. Once the trainee comes of age, the guild is granted exclusive negotiation rights to contract them before anyone else can. Jae-hyun is stunned. He knows about this perk but never imagined it would actually apply to him, especially after getting rejected by even the lowest-tier guilds in his past life. Clearly, the Senxes has taken a liking to him. Sitting up straight, Jae-hyun says he'll begin the healing now. Though her offer is generous, he decides to treat her first before formally accepting it. As he moves closer, standing above her, the manager watches nervously. Though he no longer doubts Jae-hyun's powers after seeing the skill demonstration, he's still uneasy. What if the boy uses a cursed or unstable method? After all, even top-tier doctors failed to heal her. But the moment Jae-hyun casts his skill, the room begins to glow. The Senxes feels the changes instantly, a warmth spreading through her body, her pain vanishing. Her expression turns to one of disbelief and awe. The manager is stunned. Without hesitation, he bows deeply, apologizing with heartfelt sincerity for ever doubting Jae-hyun. Jae-hyun casually shrugs it off. It's only natural to be skeptical of a kid, he says with a small smile. But the manager insists, ashamed of how he treated him earlier. Jae-hyun turns to the Senxes. It's done. You should be able to move freely now. She slowly rises from her seat, walks over to the window and casts a magic spell. Light bursts from her hand, illuminating the entire room. Her eyes fill with tears. She can feel it, the illness is gone. Choking up, she expresses her gratitude for this miracle. Will there be any penalty for healing me? She asks, concerned. But as we know, there's no penalty. Jae-hyun's copy is clean, free from drawbacks. With a grin, he assures her, you can pay me back when the time comes. The Senxes nods. She pulls out her guild card and hands it to him, asking him to seriously consider her offer. She promises to do everything she can to make sure it benefits him. Before leaving, Jae-hyun says there's something he wants to request. The next day, the manager escorts him to a low-ranked dungeon owned by the Lotus Guild. It's his first step in leveling up, preparing himself to eventually become an elite student at Mills Academy. The guild has already taken care of everything, equipment, access, even loaned him spare gear usually reserved for members. But the manager warns him soloing a dungeon, even a low-tier one, is risky. Why go in alone? He asks. I just want to grind and test myself. Jae-hyun replies calmly. As a precaution, the manager gives him a warp stone. Break this if you're in danger, it'll teleport you to the dungeon entrance. It's a small token of appreciation for healing the Senxes. Jae-hyun accepts it with a nod and steps into the dungeon. From his experience, he knows it's just an E-rank gate, nothing too dangerous. But then, something unexpected happens. Out of nowhere, a hand covers his mouth from behind. The system flashes a warning. You have entered Helheim's Field of the Dead. Meanwhile, back at the Lotus Guild, Director Yoongan sits deep in thought. She's still processing what happened. Even in a basic A-rank dungeon, clearing it solo is almost unheard of for a trainee. Yet she has a strong feeling this kid is no ordinary rookie. He didn't choose that gate by chance. She smirks. Let's see what you're planning, she thinks. Just then, there's a knock at the door. With her permission, an assistant enters and hands her a file. It's the boy's profile, the assistant says. The director flips through the pages, then freezes. He wants to be a martial artist. She says aloud, confused. With magical skills like his, such a career choice seems absurd. A heavy silence falls over the room. As the woman who submitted the reports admits, even she can't wrap her head around how someone could be this gifted. Still, she assures the director that everything in the report is accurate unless there were mechanical errors, which she doubts. When the director takes a look himself, he sees that our guy's magical aptitude is a whopping 97%. Wasting no time, the director contacts his manager Opa, instructing him to notify her immediately when the boy exits the dungeon. She's eager to see this prodigy in action for herself. Meanwhile, our protagonist plummets into the unknown, an eerie place called the Field of the Dead, and lands hard on his backside. As he looks around, it dawns on him that he's in a graveyard. Struggling to his feet and coughing, he barely gets a moment to think before an undead creature appears, draws its bow and fires. He's too slow to dodge, and the arrow slices across his face. Then another monster appears, poised to strike. He's unsure if its weapon is coated with paralysis poison, which only irritates him more. He quickly heals himself using his sacrifice skill, but more zombies begin to close in. Black souls float ominously above, wasting no time in launching their attacks. This time, though, Jae-hun snatches an arrow out of the air with his bare hand and crushes it, clearly losing patience with these nuisances. Meanwhile, Kim Yoo-jung stares at the autograph she received from the director, and she is also feeling totally annoyed at our hero for leaving her alone. Despite knowing she has a terrible sense of direction, she's getting more and more annoyed by his unpredictable moves. He used to avoid crowds, but suddenly he's agreeing to tag along with her. He never used to ditch her like this before, always making sure she wasn't left hanging, but this time, he left her high and dry down there alone. And now he's switching to magic class. Even though he's always dreamed of martial arts, she just can't wrap her head around his sudden change because she knows he's usually thoughtful and careful, not someone who acts without a good reason. Suddenly, she starts texting him again, giving him a piece of her mind about leaving her alone that day. Meanwhile, back in the dungeon, Jae-hyun's face pales as he freaks out at the sight of ghosts right in front of him. To make matters worse, they're far more organized than your typical monster horde. He decides to rely on an item, a staff forged by a blacksmith from the Lotus Guild. Before we delve deeper, we learn that this dungeon, Helheimr, is the realm of the dead overseen by Loki's daughter, Hel. It's one of the 9 worlds in Norse mythology, created after the 7 realms excluding Midgard and Asgard. These worlds include Niflheimr, the world of fog and ice; Muspelheimr, the world of flames; Jotunheimr, the world of giants; Alfheimr, the world of elves; Svartalfheimr, the world of dark elves; Vanaheimr, the world of the Vanir gods; and the coldest and darkest of all, Niflheimr, where Helheimr exists alongside it. This place is a total nightmare for newbies, but our hero's pumped to test his skills. He decides to whip out Goddess Nora's sacrifice skill. When he uses it on dead monsters, bam! It transforms into this epic area of effect attack called Judgment of Light. The monster jumps him right away, but our hero's quick to smack it down with his wand, sending the monster flung backward. He gears up with Blitzfire and blasts the monster to smithereens, bagging 70 XP for knocking out the Death Wraith. He keeps up the momentum, chaining his blitz moves to rock the stage with his skills. Every monster he takes down brings a bigger grin to his face as the XP rolls in. Next up, he leaps at another undead who is using arrows and smacks it hard on the noggin. Boom! His wand cracks in half, but he still manages to take down the monster. His face goes pale seeing his wand broken, realizing he wasn't exactly fighting like a mage after all, and his foolishness has caused him to lose a weapon. So, he gets serious and activates his sacrifice skill. The holy judgment of light comes crashing down on the monsters, burning them to a crisp. Once those undead are turned into ashes, he racks up some valuable experience points along the way, and decides to take a breather in the settling haze. He heals himself to restore his powers, and he is relieved to have made it out alive. He's learned a valuable lesson. Not to overestimate his skills. Even though divine judgment saved him this time, he might not be so lucky next time. In any case, he decides to leave the place, but he soon realizes he has no clue how to get outside. He sighs and decides to use the warp stone, but before he can, a terrifying aura of mana creeps over him from behind. When he looks back, there's nothing there. Suddenly, he senses something approaching, and in the next moment he feels himself getting choked. He raises his busted wand and jabs it into his own thigh. Not quite sure why he's hurting himself, but he is making damn sure not to let out a single scream to draw any unwanted company. Little does he know, there's this hideous monstrosity lurking right behind him. Right on cue, the system chimes in, revealing that the dungeon boss, Nightshade, has shown up. And the gap in levels between our hero and this boss is like night and day. The system practically screams at him to bolt out of the dungeon as soon as possible. He fumbles for his teleportation stone, but before he can grab it, the monster pounces from behind, sending the stone tumbling from his hands as he hits the nearby wall and starts coughing up blood. His HP also takes a nosedive. The system immediately tells him to use a healing item immediately, but looks like he does not have any time for that because the monster is already standing before him and immediately launches another attack. Just as he braces for the worst, the monster in front of him freezes solid, leaving him staring in disbelief, wondering what the heck just happened. That's when a woman's voice, echoes through the cavern. The woman appears divine, almost like a goddess. She commands the monster not to harm him, revealing that she herself brought him here as an important guest. This half-demon, half-angelic elf informs our hero that he is destined to be the adversary. Confused, the boy has no idea who this woman could be. The lady continues, expressing her belief that he was meant to effortlessly defeat this monster as the adversary. However, it seems she was mistaken, seeing him as just an average kid with moderate mana and abilities. She questions why Loki chose someone like him to be the adversary against the mighty Aesir gods. The boy struggles to remain conscious, his life slipping away from the loss of blood. He knows he can't afford to die here, not when he's been given a second chance to make things right. Seeing the determination in our hero's eyes, the lady acknowledges his resolve but states that he's still too weak to fulfill his role as the chosen adversary. She begins to choke him, warning that his end is near. If he doesn't grow stronger quickly, she threatens to end his life with her own hands. Recognizing his importance to them, she decides to grant him another chance. She urges him to become much stronger than he is now, to defeat the Nightshade monster easily. If he succeeds, she promises him a reward, but emphasizes that he must act quickly. And then, a system pops up with the first main quest, Hell's Trials. His main goal in this mission is to take down Nightshade within 2 months, and it looks like this mysterious lady is none other than Goddess Hel herself, Loki's daughter. If he nails this mission, then the Goddess Hel will personally give him her gift, but failure means death as the penalty. As those creepy hands start dragging him into the darkness, he loses sight of everything. And as the scene shifts, we see this blonde goddess we saw during his time regression. And she still appears to be saying something to our hero in this foreign language. Suddenly he awakens in the real world. As he stands up, he realizes that his injuries have been healed completely. Checking his window stats, he sees the same quest still hovering before him, which confirms that everything he felt back then was real, and the lady he encountered was indeed Hel, the goddess who rules over Helheimer, one of the 9 worlds of mythology. He's still clueless about this whole adversary thing, and he's heard something familiar already right after getting this new Nornir system. With a pile of unanswered questions looming over him, like why he regressed and what the heck this adversary stuff is, he knows one thing for sure: he's gotta level up fast. If what that goddess said holds water, the moment he stops getting stronger, he will be killed by that goddess. But hey, he chuckles to himself, at least he's got some daring tasks ahead. Still, he's got a long road ahead. He doesn't know how to fight as a mage, and he also lacks any basic spells to handle small fry. Pulling out his phone, he sees a call from the director summoning him. He tells her he'll swing by tomorrow and is ready to make the contract. The next day rolls around, and our hero steps into the Lotus Flower Guild. The manager leads him inside, and as they walk, he understands why they are giving him so much special treatment. Because his mage aptitude is at 97% after all. Arriving at their destination, our hero brightens at the sight of the lady director, exuding confidence with her long hair and a presence that catches his eye. They exchange greetings warmly. She dives into the perks the guild is offering with the contract, and our hero enthusiastically confirms they're impressive. I mean, who wouldn't be thrilled? Alongside a stipend for living expenses, the guild provides him with an endless supply of B-rank items at no cost if they break. On top of that, he'll earn a substantial profit based on his contributions in the raids. These terms are usually reserved for top-notch A-grade raiders. Before signing the contract, he reveals a condition. The lady director warmly encourages him to speak his mind. He explains that it's only been a month since he transitioned from martial arts to magecraft, making him inexperienced in magic. Therefore, he requests to be personally trained by the director herself. The manager marvels at our hero's audacity to directly confront the prestigious director without hesitation. Meanwhile, the boy asks if she agrees to his condition before signing the priority negotiation contract with the Lotus Guild. She chuckles at his interesting request and agrees to his terms. He thanks her, and she teasingly reminds him she's already got her eye on his potential and can't wait to see it in action. She presses him to display his talent first, if he's comfortable enough. Of course, our hero had already anticipated this. After all, it's the main reason the Lotus Guild is interested in him. He immediately asks what he should do to demonstrate his power. The lady simply clicks her fingers, and blue energy begins to manifest behind her, forming a mana cube, and she tells him to endure it. The boy is absolutely baffled by the sight of the mana cube. The lady quickly reminds him that a talented individual should be able to manage at least this much if he's going to sign the priority negotiation contract with her Lotus Guild. You see, a mana cube is a test that B-rank and above mages use to gauge their mana sensitivity, but there's no way someone like our hero wouldn't be overwhelmed by it, as only 7% of awakened mages can endure it. The boy asks the lady if she's trying to scare him off. She reassures him that even if he fails, it won't affect their priority negotiation and they'll still form the contract. With no way out, our hero bites the bullet and steps forward. The director nods to her manager to prepare, who expresses concern about her decision since even current mage raiders struggle with the cube. The lady reaffirms that our hero isn't your average guy, so it's worth a shot. Reluctantly, the director nods and activates the cube. Once the mana cube is activated, the boy hesitates before the overwhelming energy. The lady behind him encourages him to step in, and finally, he gathers the courage to enter. As soon as he's inside the mana cube, the manager remains visibly anxious, seeing him as just a young kid. The lady reassures her that he can handle it, confidently expressing trust in her intuition that he won't fail. Inside, our hero feels like he's drifting in a vast ocean made of mana. Surprisingly, he can breathe normally, alleviating his earlier concerns about getting sick from prolonged exposure to thick mana, which could even lead to death during the test. He searches for a way out, recalling that the only escape from the mana cube is finding the singular door connected to the outer world among countless whirlpools. He gathers his resolve, searching for a way out within the mana cube. Suddenly he senses something unusual, an unassuming crystal tucked away, pulsating with immense magical power, as if containing the entire essence of the great ocean of mana. Meanwhile, the manager remains anxious while the lady continues to chuckle. Anxiously, the manager asks how long it typically takes. The lady mentions the fastest exit from the cube is 40 minutes, a record high. Upon hearing this, the manager bluntly states it'll either end in our hero's death or he'll set a new world record. The lady agrees, albeit confidently expecting the latter outcome. Their eyes widen as they witness the crystal starting to fracture. Shocked, the manager grabs his phone and realizes only 10 minutes have passed since our hero entered. While the spectators anticipate what's happening inside, our hero senses the immense power of the crystal and grins, thinking that breaking it might just be his ticket out. With determination, he swims towards the stone, clenches it tightly in his fist, and shatters it into pieces in a swift motion. As cracks begin to spread around him, a system notification reveals that he has acquired a passive skill called Crystal of Mana Operation. Suddenly, the mana cube collapses, leaving both spectators in a mix of terror and awe. This kind of test typically takes an hour for an S-rank player, but our guy smashed through it in just 26 minutes, shattering the record held by the European Union's Camilla, a genius mage noted in the World Guinness at 36 minutes. The manager immediately walks forward, shaking our hero's hand enthusiastically and showering him with praise. The lady also joins in, but her curiosity is piqued about how he managed to shatter the cube so quickly. The boy explains that he found a crystal inside the cube and broke it. The lady is shocked to hear this because a mana cube crystal contains all the magic power within the cube, and it's incredibly rare for anyone, especially a regular awakened person, to find or break it. The fact that our hero not only found it but shattered it suggests that his mana capacity exceeds that of the entire cube. She bursts into a moment of happiness and immediately vows to help him become the greatest mage in the world. The scene transitions back to Lady Kim Yoo-jung, who is visibly upset that Jae-hyun is still late. Our hero's mother stands beside Kim Yoo-jung, confirming that he's indeed late and not answering calls either. Suddenly, a familiar flashy Rolls-Royce grabs both ladies' attention. They're stunned to see our hero stepping out of such an expensive car, completely blowing them away. How could he afford something like that? Jae-hyun immediately notices the ladies and waves happily. While his mother is anxious, concerned if her son is involved in something shady, Lady Kim is livid to see him lounging around. Once they're settled in the room, the girl jumps straight to demanding answers, asking why he switched to magic class. Our hero casually explains that martial arts just wasn't cutting it for him anymore, and he already filled out all the paperwork for the magic track. She keeps pushing for more details about his decision, but he flips the script and asks why she's dropped by. He then asks if her parents are off at work, to which she nods, explaining that's why she's crashing for the night with our hero's mom's blessing. We then learn that her folks work in a monster processing plant, shipping creatures abroad, which keeps them moving, and whenever she's left alone, she tends to hang out with him, since our hero's mother is a good friend of her parents. Moving forward, the boy asks her to teach him the theories of magic now that he's in the magic class. The girl demands to know what she'll get in return. Reluctantly, the boy asks what she wants. The girl admits she doesn't have anything specific in mind at the moment. After thinking for a bit, she decides that he must grant her one wish. The boy agrees but adds a condition. Her wish must be made within a year, or it expires. The girl agrees, somewhat annoyed, while the boy privately bets that she'll likely forget about it within a year. Teasingly, the boy asks what kind of wish she might have in mind, but the girl, now visibly annoyed, tells him to shut his yapping. The lady gets so mad. As they continue their banter, their mother calls them to dinner, but they ignore her, caught up in their playful pillow fight. Observing their chemistry, it wouldn't surprise me if the girl jokingly tells him to marry her as her wish. Meanwhile, in the forest, violent ravens float above in the air and a man clad in black easily dispatches the monsters with his sword. Finally, we meet our hero's father, Min Seong-oh, who receives praise from the armored man for effortlessly clearing the dungeon. The man invites Min Seong-oh to join their guild, but our hero's father declines, preferring to stay solo. The armored guy practically begs our father to join, promising all sorts of respect from the Scarlet Guild, but the man in black just scoffs and calls him stubborn. Then, out of nowhere, the father starts summoning these weird chain things, and he also yaps about humans being greedy like he's giving a lecture. He vanishes into thin air, leaving the armored guy scratching his head. After this spooky encounter with this killer dad, who, let's face it, looks younger than our hero himself, We're back to the director, who's giving a lecture to Jae-hyun for his first magic class. The lady decides to dive right into sparring and challenges him to take a swing at her. The boy hesitates but realizes he has no choice. He lets out a sigh and carefully takes his stance, ensuring there are no openings. Drawing on his martial arts knowledge, he throws a punch aimed at her, expecting a reaction. The lady stands there grinning, and the impact of his blow creates such a massive disturbance that everything gets obscured in a cloud of dust. As the dust settles, our hero sees his punch effortlessly caught by the lady, who handles it like it's nothing, leaving him utterly terrified. She grins confidently, and the boy quickly retreats to a safer distance. Seems he underestimated her just because she's a healer. He's now certain she's got the power of an S-rank raider. After that punch, she breaks down his moves, noting the martial artist's habits in his stance and attack. She points out that mages typically don't charge in like that to attack. The director then asks him if he knows the difference between martial arts and magic. The boy says martial arts is all about up-close fighting with swords and stuff, while magic is more about blasting from a distance. She nods and adds that magic classes are about weakening enemies from afar, while martial arts finish them off face to face. Then she tells him to get ready because she's going to attack him to show him what mage combat is really like. She assures him she can heal him if things get messy. He's a bit nervous but ready. The lady gathers energy at her fingertip and shoots out this intense laser beam of energy. The boy quickly rolls to safety as the lady tells him it's his turn to attack. He activates his blitz chain power and unleashes lightning arrows straight at her. There's a huge explosion when the chains hit their mark, but the lady stands there without a scratch. She's surprised he has an A-rank skill but reminds him it's only good if he hits the target. Then, she counters with her own arrow aimed right at his face. He freaks out and ends up taking the arrow straight. Even though he's battered head to toe, he stays standing, impressing the lady with his resilience. But then she decides to go all out, throwing a barrage of blue lightning bolts at him. This time, he immediately uses his absolute calculator skill, and the magic disintegrates, leaving the lady shocked. She can't believe he reversed her attack and neutralized it in such a short time. The lady is once again amazed and asks him if there are any more surprises he's hiding. Our hero just tells her to find out for herself, and with that challenge, the ground right in front of her starts crackling with intense energy. She takes a direct hit but manages to deflect it with her hand, though her hand trembles from the impact. She's absolutely baffled at how he managed to cast this attack so fast. Meanwhile, he sends a barrage of arrows her way, but she quickly throws up a shield to protect herself. She's curious why he's casting magic without chanting, as casting for a mage typically requires a deliberate process. Experienced mages can reduce the chant for lower-powered spells, but each of his attacks is just as potent, making her doubt he's casting without uttering a single word. On the flip side, our hero's almost wiped out and can't muster enough mana to keep attacking, so he just blurts out that she's a monster for being so resilient. The lady strolls up to him with this smirk, saying he's an interesting kid with loads of potential. But she points out he's still green, catches him off guard, and knocks him to the ground just like that. He's clueless about how it happened, while she just chalks it up to her years of experience. Thinking about his skills, she gives him props for his melee combat game and how he can cast magic without a hitch. She's impressed by his knack for unraveling spells with that reverse calculation trick, thinking he could totally create a one-of-a-kind fighting style. She tells him she's taking him under her wing from now on, officially making herself his teacher. Apparently, he's the first lucky duck to get this kind of VIP treatment of becoming her student. The next scene shows our hero sitting melancholically, lost in thought. His friend snaps him out of his daydreaming with a disdainful aura, and he clicks his tongue, telling her he's listening. It seems she's been munching on ice cream ever since she arrived, which our hero bought for her as a tuition fee. He asks if she's not full yet, to which she replies she could eat it all day, urging him to focus on his studies. As she continues teaching him about magic, the system window reveals that his knowledge of magic has increased, and his efficiency in using magic has risen by 5%. The boy is tired of these persistent notifications. Every time he learns something new, they start to annoy him. The system feels like it's pushing him to grow constantly. It seems even Lady Kim finds it pretty strange how quickly he's picking things up. He's learned more in 2 days than most people would in 2 months. But the boy downplays it, saying there's nothing surprising since she herself can memorize forms just by looking at them. This annoying girl gets even more irritated and demands our hero to call her teacher. Her annoyance seems to stem from the fact that he's learning everything so fast. Despite her being in the magic field much longer than him, she's worried he's going to surpass her sooner than later at this rate. The boy sighs and reluctantly calls her teacher, reminding her that he surely has natural talent in the field of magic, so of course he is learning faster. But let's face it, he's putting in every effort to learn magic as quickly as possible because he doesn't want to get screwed over by Goddess Hell. The lady then reminds him that when he said he was going into martial arts, she was really surprised, and she now starts yelling at him for his decision he made back then. asking why he thought of abandoning the magic field even though it was suited for him. While Yoo-jung and Jae-hyun are having their study session, Jae-hyun sees the vision of a man's face that is linked to the events that happened in his past life. Yoo-jung pulls him out of his daydreaming by asking him if he's training for the practical exam in his own time, and he affirms that a different teacher is helping him train his practical. He wonders what the vision he just saw was and is uncertain if it was just his imagination. However, he also recalls that Hell gave him 2 months to defeat the Nightshade, so he pushes the thoughts out of his mind because it's not the time to get distracted. Our boy considers other beneficial things, like his hopes that the pill he's working on becomes a big help to raiders across the world and can help him overcome this wall in his abilities. Meanwhile, in the Lotus Guild Training Center, Park Sung-jae, the manager, supervises some of the raiders who are training and corrects some of the mistakes they're making. When he spots the guildmaster, Seongun, he makes a comment to her about how the trainees aren't bad for newbies and how the average rank has almost gone up from last year. But he's surprised to notice she wasn't listening. When she realizes he was talking to her, Seongun apologizes, and the manager teases her by saying she's thinking about Jae-hyun, and she affirms his suspicions. Suddenly the manager mentions that he recalls that several other raiders have tried to learn the thing that she wants to teach Jae-hyun and have all failed. However, Seongun reminds the manager that he also saw Jae-hyun's peculiar talent. It would have been believable to say that Jae-hyun was a veteran because he didn't make a single unnecessary movement. At this point, Guildmaster Seongun is certain that if another S-rank magician is to appear in the future, it will be Jae-hyun. Presently, she's still the only magician in the country who has become an S-rank. Even so, as a healer, her effectiveness in battle is a bit low. However, if Jae-hyun were to suddenly appear like a comet right now, it would shake up the whole magic world. Sometimes later, MC works on a mana enhancement pill. Like its name suggests, it's a pill that permanently increases the mana of the awakened who takes it. And it's an item that all magicians covet. While he's working, the mixture fails for the umpteenth time, and our boy throws away the spoon in anger. At this point, he's already used up 3 sets of the ingredients, and it seems like he'll blow up all his money if this continues. In the present of November 2020, no one knows how to make the mana enhancement pill just yet, because the pill won't be invented for another 5 years. Before returning to the past, the pill's recipe was shared by a world-class alchemist. As he published the recipe, the alchemist expressed how he hopes that the pill will be of great help to numerous raiders around the world. It seems to our boy that just keeping at it like this won't work. But he gets another idea of what might have a higher chance of working, and that is finding Lee Jae-sang, since he's the one who will invent the pill in 5 years' time. Even if he ends up unable to make the pill, creating a connection with that guy won't be a loss. Since Jae-sung is presently a senior who's currently a first year at Mills Academy, he has to go to Mills Academy to meet him. While he's out, Yoo-jung comes to see Jae-hyun, and she opens the door to find a pot that seems to be possessed by some demonic power and a disgusting sink. She immediately becomes worried that something bad happened and wonders if she should call the police as she looks at the disaster all over the house. Wielding a frying pan as a weapon, she looks around the terrifying wasteland. In the past, right as the Yggdrasil appeared and monsters started pouring out, there were a few people who established themselves the quickest. One of them was a man called Lee Jae-shin, also known as Quick Blade. When the first awakened vanished without a trace, Lee Jae-shin appeared as if to take over his mantle as the first S-rank raider in Korea. Lee Jae-sang, the person our boy is out to meet right now, is the youngest son of Lee Jae-shin. When Jae-hyun reaches the transportation building, the attendant asks him where he would like to go, and he requests to take a portal to a place called Daegu. Daegu currently lay abandoned due to the monster outbreak, and it's a city where monsters poured out from all sides, and you had to worry about your life from the moment you stepped in. Shortly after, our boy gets close to the Mills Academy in Daegu and has to walk a bit more to get to the main entrance. When he gets in, he wonders where he could find Jae-sung. Although Jae-sung was in the combat department, he wasn't very talented. The probability of Jae-sung, who dislikes fighting, making use of Milas's combat facilities is very low, so Jae-hyun decides to look around the classrooms first. As he walks forward, he notices a crowd and walks up to see what they're looking at. When he forces his way through, he's hit by Jae-sung, who's thrown back by an attack from whoever is whooping his behind. Our boy helps Jae-sang up, and the kid apologizes for hitting him. Jae-hyun, however, doesn't reply to his apology, but only locks eyes on Jae-sung's opponent, who asks him who the heck he is, and if he has any business with Jae-sung, whom he calls a stutterer. Before he can talk, the bully places a hand on our boy's back and asks him if he's the brother of the stutterer. After all, they don't look one bit alike, but Jae-hyun doesn't bother giving any response to this shithead. However, the bully clarifies that they're having an important discussion and advises him to wait outside if he doesn't want to end up in a bad situation. Before the guy can finish his statement, our boy slaps away his hand. Finally, Jaehyun tells the kid it would be best if he went to the nurse's office and asks if he can walk. But Jae-sung just stares at him in confusion. Annoyed, the bully steps forward and grabs Jaehyun by his collar, calling him a bastard. The angry bully demands to know if he doesn't understand when spoken to nicely and asks him if he wants to die. However, our boy mentions that this is the second time someone is grabbing his collar, and he doesn't know why people keep doing that so often lately. He remembers his lessons with Yu Jung about having a clear image in his head, then calculating the magic formula, constructing the spell, and then executing it. As he recalls Seongun, the image our boy chooses is a beam of light that shoots out like an arrow. Suddenly, the system notifies him that the skill called Holy Arrow has been activated. Just by pointing his finger, our boy releases a blast of the Holy Arrow into the big guy's chest and throws him backward, even knocking out spit from his mouth. As the big guy screams in pain, Jae-sung watches in shock as he realizes this stranger just cast a spell without incanting. The other onlookers also wonder what the heck just happened, and they wonder how this guy was able to cast, and how he was able to fire a holy arrow that broke the arm of a prospective warrior. As the students begin to chat that it's possible that the big guy is just weaker than he seems, the big guy becomes annoyed. If this goes on, his reputation is going to be destroyed, so he pledges not to let this bastard go without leaving a dent. As he holds on to his broken arm, he generates a sword. When Jae-sung notices it, he calls out to Jaehyun to be careful, but the angry bully swings the sword to injure Jaehyun. As the sword closes in on Jaehyun's face, he remembers how Master Seongun had taught him how to create a barrier by evenly wrapping mana around his body, so attacks violently bounce off. He immediately activates his mana barrier skill, and the bully's huge sword bounces off like rubber until it swings out of his reach. A look of terror crosses the big guy's face, but he's unable to react quickly enough because our boy soon grabs his face and asks him if he's done with his tricks. As the bully attempts to call him a crazy bastard, Jaehyun doesn't let the words fully come out of his mouth before he blasts a holy arrow into his face, violently knocking him backward and breaking his nose. A huge thud occurs as the bully crashes into the ground, and Jae-sang watches in awe as he wonders who this stranger is. When Jaehyun eventually locks gazes with him, the kid shrieks in fear, but Jaehyun only walks past him towards the unconscious bully, who's still enveloped in smoke. Jaehyun crouches near him and he's surprised by how good he got the guy. Soon after, our boy brings out a potion. He regrets having to use the potion he bought for this, but it can't be helped, so he pours it on the injured bully. Immediately the bully's face completely heals up, and our boy is impressed by its effectiveness. Once that's done, he turns to Jae-sang, who's still pretty shaken up, and proposes that they get going to the nurse's office. As they head to the nurse's office, Jaehyun stops when they reach somewhere where no one can hear them talk. Confused, Jae-sung stares at him, and he suspects that Jaehyun came looking for him because he knows who he is. Eventually, he musters up the courage to ask Jaehyun if his father sent him by any chance. Intrigued, Jaehyun replies that his father didn't and asks how he would know who his father is, but it's clear that Jae-sung isn't buying it. Eventually, Jae-sung asks him why he came looking for him, so our boy informs him that he has a favor to ask. When Jaehyun mentions that he would like him to make a certain pill, Jae-sung becomes shocked and states that he doesn't know how to make things like that. Confused, Jaehyun tells him he's good at alchemy, and when he brings out the potion he used on the bully, he asks Jae-sang if he wasn't the one who sold the potion on the black market. Shocked, the kid wonders how on earth he found out, because there's no way he could have found his information from the black market. Jaehyun knows what's on his mind, and truthfully, he's not wrong because the black market is a transaction system that completely hides the user's identity. The sale of items, product price, recipient and everything else happens through the Esra system, so it can only be secure. Fortunately, the black market works normally with the Nornir system that Jaehyun possesses, which made him able to buy this potion and made things much easier. Once more, Jaehyun asks Jae-sung if he made the potion, and Jae-sung utterly denies it. But our boy immediately tells him he's not very good at lying. Eventually, Jaehyun tells him he completely understands why he would like to hide it, but he explains that he doesn't have much time. Jae-sung recalls how he had listed the potions on the black market, and wonders if it was a mistake to register his potions on the black market. He hadn't thought that things would become like this because he had only done this to try to earn some money. He knows that he's going to die if his father finds out, so to stop that, he bows to Jaehyun and pleads that he keep it a secret from other people. Eventually, Jaehyun explains that he didn't tell him this to blackmail him, but he only needs an excellent alchemist that can help him make the elixir that he wants. After Jae-sung thinks about it for a while, he asks Jaehyun who on earth he is, so our boy explains that he's a prospective student of Milla's academy and calls him senior. Eventually they both sit, and Jae-sung, who's still tense, requests that he tell him about the pill he wants to make. Our boy informs him that he wants to make a mana enhancement pill, a pill that permanently increases a raider's mana. Shocked, Jae-sung gets up and asks him if permanently increasing someone's mana is even possible. Jae-hyun tells him it is. Immediately the kid's engines begin running, and he wonders what kind of ingredients would be needed to create such an effect. As he begins to think of the things that could be needed for the mana pill, Jae-hyun is surprised to notice that the kid's aura has changed, and he's stopped stuttering. Apart from that, Jae-sung was able to guess most of the ingredients just from hearing the effects, which shows he's truly talented. And Jae-hyun decides that he has to win him over. Eventually, Jae-sung stops talking and concludes that it would be better to ask another alchemist since it's such a great elixir. But Jae-hyun refuses because he wants to ask him, and even promises to provide everything he needs. Although it's true that with the recipe, other alchemists might be able to create the pill, the one who possesses overwhelming, incomparable talent is Lee Jae-sung. Finally, he asks Jae-sung if he'll do this favor for him, and the kid agrees. Regardless, Jae-sung clarifies that he doesn't know if he'll succeed or not, so our boy tells him it's alright even if he fails. Confused, Jae-sung asks him if it's alright since he'll be the one taking the loss. So Jae-hyun assures him that he's investing because he thinks that he has the ability. And he admits some investments can result in failure. As Jae-hyun tells him he looks forward to working with him, tears fill up the kid's eyes because this is the first time that someone has ever believed in him like this. When Jae-hyun notices this, he's glad he's been able to make a connection with him. The next morning, while Jae-sung is alone in his room, he thinks about the events that had transpired just hours ago. And he wonders if he's even had anyone believe in him this much in his life, because he's a coward, not as talented as his other siblings, and lost his mother early. He was eventually left alone and was unable to gain the approval of his father, so to him it's odd that someone would trust him enough to tell him that it's alright to fail. The fact that he, who had nothing to show for himself, received such trust for the first time, reaches deep into his heart and makes him begin to cry. Meanwhile, Jae-hyun's main quest is to deal with Hell's trial by defeating Nightshade within the time limit and getting Hell's recognition. The mission comes with a reward of Hell's gift, and he had 2 months to fulfill the mission, with a penalty of death looming over his head if he fails. Presently, he has only 10 days and 23 hours to perform it. Sometime later, Jae-hyun goes to the training center to spar with Seongun, and he manages to dodge her blue lightning attacks. As he moves forward to close the gap between them, he's targeted by some blasts, but he creates a shield to protect himself. He quickly activates his own holy arrow attack and blasts her with it, but she's already covered up in a magic shield. However, she notices a crack in the shield, and she's surprised our boy has grown this strong already. After the smoke clears, both of them lock eyes with one another, as if at a cowboy standoff, until Jae-hyun starts to burn bright with yellowish streaks of lightning around his body as he activates his blitz chain skill. But Seongun looks quite ready for his attack. As they both prepare to attack, the manager steps in and tells them to wrap it up because their time is up and they've both worked hard today as well. The manager is surprised that the training hall made with arc metal, which takes a significant amount of strength to create even a little of, has been destroyed by their sparring session. If he hadn't stopped them in the middle, the hall would have been obliterated. While they're resting, Seongun tells our boy that he's grown strong at a truly unbelievable rate. Apparently, he can cast more spells now, and his strength is now ridiculously high. Suddenly, she asks him if he's studying the theory separately, so he affirms that he's learning it from a friend. Excited, Seongun declares that it's better than she expected, because she was worried since she couldn't help him with the theory too. She comments that it seems like Jae-hyun has an intelligent friend, and he reluctantly agrees she is. But he considers how the real problem is Yoo-jung's weird-ass personality. Before they leave, Seongun reminds Jae-hyun that he had said he wanted to try raiding a dungeon again, and he affirms that he wants to test out the effectiveness of the training thus far. Because of that, Seongun believes that the E-rank dungeon that he entered should be a breeze with his current skills, so she asks him to do his best. The only issue is that it's not an E-rank dungeon he entered, but a C-rank one where he encountered Hell and Nightshade. He wonders if he can defeat a C-rank boss monster alone, but he decides not to worry too much about it since he's prepared well enough and he can only focus on the battle. Sometime later, Jae-hyun goes to see Jae-sang, who meets him with the pill he's worked hard to create. Soon after, Jae-hyun ingests the mana enhancement pill, and his magic stat increases by 15, and the unbelievable effects shock him. Alchemy is fundamentally a profound and difficult science. Even when creating the same item, its effect could differ greatly depending on the skills of the alchemist. If Jae-hyun had taken the ingredients to a different alchemist, they probably wouldn't have been able to give him an item that could even increase his magic stat by 5. Eventually, our boy smiles and reminds Jae-sung that he's truly talented, but Jae-sung says it's because he could believe in him, and he thanks him. Shortly after, our boy takes his leave, and he believes he's ready to defeat Nightshade the next day. Meanwhile, Hell speaks with her dragon Garmer and informs him that it seems that they'll be receiving a delightful guest that day. With 9 days and 22 hours remaining on the timer, he has to clear the dungeon. Our boy returns to the gate of the dungeon. He's given a complete probationary Valkyrie set, with which he gains a passive skill called Mana Plundering. Soon after, he enters the dungeon, and the portal system informs him that he'll be transported to Helheim's land of the dead, because of the Nornir system he possesses. He falls through the portal and finally lands in the land of the dead. If he defeats Nightshade, he'll be able to meet Hel again. Suddenly, he hears a voice behind him refer to him as the adversary, mentioning Loki and Nornir. Soon after, the monster speaking to him fires arrows at him, but our boy protects himself with a magic barrier. As he turns back, he notices several monsters coming out of the ground, and he recalls how Xiangjin had told him that what she wants to teach him is the combat style of a battle mage. These battle mages are also called swordsmen by warriors, and it's a hybrid combat style that uses both magic and physical attacks. But until now, no one has managed it. As Jaehyun turns back to blast the monsters behind him with holy arrows, he considers how this fighting method is not as powerful as being a long-distance magician, and is lacking compared to a close-distance warrior. As he pummels one monster into the ground, he realizes the fighting style is in an awkward position, because it specializes in neither. But Xiangjin seems to believe that it's going to be a different story for him. He soon begins to destroy the monsters. Meanwhile, while manager Sungjai is guarding the entrance of the dungeon, he senses that someone else is there, and he recalls that he didn't get a report that someone else would be coming here. He immediately wields his sword as a red car rushes towards him. When the driver parks, a woman who recognizes him as senior mentions that it was rather hard to find him. When Sungjai realizes it's an old acquaintance named Yeonju, he stows away his sword, and he asks her what she's doing here, and about her guild. She explains that she's on the job right now too, and that she figured she'd see him again while taking care of some work for the guild, but she had checked at the Manhwa guild and couldn't find him. However, manager Sungjai wonders what nonsense she's spouting, especially since Yeonju hasn't contacted him even once since they graduated from college. Eventually, he replies that it's nice to see her after so long, but he considers that she isn't someone who would come to a remote place like this just to see him. As she steps forward, Yeonju asks her senior if he's managing this dungeon, but he informs her that it isn't something an outsider should concern themselves with. Regardless, she keeps speaking and mentions that managing dungeons is usually not a part of his responsibilities, and asks if he got demoted. When he doesn't answer, she mentions that she was curious to know if the rumor that Guildmaster Shangan is sick is true. Manager Sungjai's face becomes grim, and he informs her that it's obviously just a rumor. When he asks her where she heard something like that, she comments that there are plenty of listening ears, and that their curator guild has a lot of them. Intrigued, manager Sungjai wonders if she's saying that they have spies in their guild. So he thanks her for letting him know, and informs her he'll deal with that. When he grows impatient, he asks her if that's all because he probably has to head back and start the cleanup now. So she also asks him if he knows a kid named Min Jae-hyun. The question alarms manager Sungjai, and Yeonju mentions that this kid has been visiting Manhwa Guild and meeting Guildmaster Yu Sungin quite often, so she wants to ask if he knows the reason for it. Confused, manager Sungjai informs her that he doesn't think that is something an outsider should care about either. Eventually, Yeonju sighs and walks away. As she leaves, she informs him that she didn't expect him to tell her anything because she knows how inflexible he is, but the reason she came all this way is because she should at least pretend to do something deserving of her salary at the guild. Eventually, she gets into her car and drives off. Meanwhile, in the dungeon, our boy piles up a lot of monster corpses and sits on them. Soon after, the dungeon boss, Nightshade, appears, and our boy tells the monster that it's been a while. Nightshade's body burns in an eerie bright red, and the monster soon lunges forward, causing our boy to jump into the air as he aims his holy arrows at the monster. While mid-air, he fires the arrows down into the monster's eyes and mouth, destabilizing it for a while before he lands back on the ground. The monster doesn't seem to be injured and removes its hand from its face, unveiling its bright red, eerie eyes. It releases several blasts of energy towards our boy, who spots them and quickly calculates the place to step to avoid the incoming attack. He successfully dodges the attack, and when he gets right in front of the monster, it releases another onslaught of destructive energy, which our boy still dogged does. Shortly after, our boy asks it if it's now flustered because things aren't going its way. Jaehyun activates his lightning chain, and he directs the chains at Nightshade, who manages to knock away the anchor of the chains. However, our boy redirects the chain's anchor and wraps the monster's midsection with the chain. Due to the monster's violent reaction, our boy decides that this attack is still not enough to subdue it, so he rains down several holy arrows and goes right for its eyes. The resulting attack is quite painful and causes blood to ooze out of the monster's face. Regardless, Nightshade refuses to go down easy and continues to thrash around until it breaks itself free of the lightning chains. Soon after, the system warns Jaehyun that the boss monster has entered a berserk state, and its strength has increased by 1.5 times. and so has its dexterity. This isn't good news to Jaehyun, and as if that's not enough, he's told that something called the stigma of death has been placed on him, and he will receive the penalty of sudden death if the stigma is not removed within 10 minutes. The condition for removal is defeating Nightshade, and our boy wonders what this sudden death penalty is since he's never heard of it before. Oddly, the system also informs him that his absolute calculation skill, also known as universal derivation, has been activated. Still confused, Jaehyun suspects that Hell has something to do with this, so he calls out to her and asks how she can just interfere like this. Instead of an answer, the system displays the 10-minute countdown, and he's already down by 30 seconds. With the stigma still on him, our boy runs towards the berserk monster, but he's shocked when Nightshade begins to run away from him. Jaehyun quickly fires a holy arrow blast at the monster's face and creates a hole in it before it can get too far away. The timer continues to count down to 8 minutes and 32 seconds, and a smile develops on Nightshade's face. It seems to know that it will win as long as it prolongs the fight. So Jaehyun decides to use a wide area skill that it can't dodge. As he's about to activate the attack, Nightshade captivates him with its gaze, and it breaks our boy's concentration and casting. The system informs him that he has failed to resist and has temporarily acquired a fear debuff that weakens his abilities. While he's still shocked at what's going on, Nightshade strikes him. After he's struck, the system displays that the fear debuff has disappeared, but Jaehyun is coughing out blood at this point. However, he manages to find his footing and isn't knocked off his feet by the attack. At this point, the time remaining until the penalty is 7 minutes and 11 seconds. Jaehyun expects the monsters to use the same attack on him, and when it doesn't, he wonders if it's unable to use such spells that limit his movements continuously. Jaehyun isn't certain, and he's worried that the monster might interfere again if it sees him trying to cast Light's Judgment, which will cause him to use up his mana and end up incapacitated. He has to think of another way, and he recalls that the monster got hit in the eye a while ago, and its line of sight is probably narrower than before. He decides to activate his Wind Boost skill to first get rid of the rest of the monster's sight. After using a blast of wind to block the monster's sight, the smoke soon clears, and our boy is seen wielding a light-type magic in his hand, just like he had planned. He teases the monster for thinking he would have run blindly towards it and calls it gullible as he activates his Flash Bomb skill. The Flash Bomb is soon triggered, releasing an explosion of bright light that covers the entire field, and releases several lightning chains towards Nightshade. Amidst the explosion, our boy is relieved that he finally got the freaking bastard. As the monster is burned up by the explosion, it screeches in pain. Out of nowhere, our boy notices some of the undead monsters he faced earlier behind him. He activates his sacrifice skill, and the system declares that sacrifice has changed into an attack skill, allowing him to use his Light's Judgment skill. With only 3 minutes and 46 seconds on the timer, our boy begins to rain blasts of light from the sky onto the field. In the frenzy, the timer goes down to a few seconds until only just 10 seconds are left. As we count down to 6 seconds, our boy fixes his gaze on Nightshade's crumbling body, and he pats himself on the back for having done it. As the timer reaches 3 seconds, the system declares that he's defeated the dungeon boss and has obtained the title of one who has overcome the first trial. Our boy fixes his gaze on Nightshade's crumbling body, and he pats himself on the back for having done it. As the timer reaches 3 seconds, the system declares that he's defeated the dungeon boss and has obtained the title of one who has overcome the first trial. Meanwhile, Hell, who had been watching the whole thing, exclaims that it seems there was a reason behind Jaehyun being chosen. She stretches forth her hand and asks the boy to come to her temple. After defeating the dungeon boss, the stigma of death disappears, and our boy receives some experience points, a crafting item called Nightshade's Core, as well as an equipment item called Shadow Armor. He's also told that he's gained 3 levels and has obtained the title of the one who has overcome the first trial. After checking his qualifications, the system informs him that Hell is calling on him to come to her temple. Moments later, he's transported in front of a huge entrance that leads into Hell's temple. At the entrance, he sees a huge monster burst out of the darkness towards him. Our boy leaps backward due to fear, but Hell calls out to the monster, named Garmer, and asks it to show their guest in. Jaehyun follows Garmer into the temple, and he calls out to Hell. Hell tells him that she didn't expect him to have succeeded, and she congratulates him for overcoming the trial she gave him, referring to him as the child born with the fate of the adversary. Confused, our boy asks the reason she gave him the Nornir system and made him go through a trial like this. But Hell only smiles as she watches him, then states that he has to grow as the adversary. Still confused, Jaehyun asks why he was the one specifically chosen to be the adversary, so she adds that it's because he was born with that fate from the very beginning. Apparently he's destined to be the adversary to the great Aesir and to become the one who will kill the great god, Odin. She explains that this is what Loki and the rest of them expect from him. When Jaehyun says he doesn't understand, Hell informs him there's no need to understand, because they had no hope of it happening in the first place. When Jaehyun becomes angered by her pointless answers, she places a finger on his lips and states that he must feel wronged because he probably cannot comprehend why he would have to be controlled by the gods. As she moves closer to him, as if to enclose her lips upon his, she reminds him that this does not only concern the gods who are against the Aesir. While speaking, she pushes him into a portal behind him and informs him that the world is heading to its end, and Odin wishes to have everything under his control. To stop this, the strength of the prophesied adversary is needed. As our boy falls through the portal, he protests that she shouldn't let him go because he still has more questions to ask. But Hel only tells him to grow strong, because she looks forward to the day they meet again. After Jaehyun is transported away, Hel turns to someone who is standing nearby and asks how long he plans to continue watching, since she doesn't remember inviting him there. Shortly after, Jaehyun falls to the ground in the real world, and he's annoyed that he was unable to get any real answers. As he sulks, the system informs him that he has received Hel's gift, which is a passive skill called Hel's Blessing, that makes all abnormal inflictions on him invalidated. Meanwhile, the old man who was spying on Hel asks her to forgive his discourtesy because he just couldn't resist when he heard that Hel was meeting with the boy. He asks Hel how she feels after meeting the boy in person, and she replies that she doesn't know because it's too early to decide, especially since the adversary has only taken his first step forward. She admits that the growth of the adversary was to a greater extent than she expected, and he won despite the stigma she gave him and stood before her in the end, which is a fortunate miscalculation on her end. The old man is relieved that the boy is doing a good job. Eventually, Hel asks him what he wants because she knows he has more to say to her, referring to him as Mimir, a figure in Norse mythology. Mimir, however, claims he doesn't know what she means, and the goddess accuses him of trying to feign ignorance till the end. As she continues to speak, Mimir asks her to calm down and admits that it seems he can't deceive her after all. Hel further states that the adversary's left eye is without a doubt the one Odin had sacrificed at the Well of Wisdom. She's certain that Mimir and Loki are concealing a secret from her, but Mimir pleads that he would wish to tell her, but it's still too early, so she agrees to wait. However, she states that she can't sit still, and when Mimir asks her what ideas she has, she explains that the adversary is still too immature because, according to the prophecy, there are innumerable hardships waiting for him, and he needs a guide. Sometime later, around 7 days before Mill's academy admission, Jaehyun comes to the store to get some items with a lady. She notices that he doesn't look so good and asks if there's something on his mind, but our boy says it's nothing, so she leads him to buy the rest of the things he'll need. Even though he said it's nothing, what's on his mind is how he went through so much without getting answers, and even ended up with even more questions. Fortunately, he was able to get the passive skill, Hel's Blessing, and an X-rank skill. Our boy has other X-rank skills too. One that's called One Watched by the Gods, which helps the user's rapid growth with the blessing of the gods. Another one is the Absolute Eye of God, which penetrates through false illusions and sees the absolute reality. The X rank is a rank that Jaehyun had never heard about with the Aesir system, and the X rank is short for extraordinary, and it seems to be a skill that exists outside the norms of the Aesir system, as he considers that the reason the gods against the Aesir provided him with these skills is for him to kill the great god, Odin. He becomes overwhelmed once more. He's soon brought out of his deep thoughts when he notices the lady he came with paying 300 million won for a mere mana blade, which is just an expendable item. As she brings out a long list on her phone of things they still have to buy, Jaehyun becomes worried. Hours before, this lady, named Park Hana, had approached our boy and told him she's from the Manhwa Guild. Apparently, Seong-gwen wishes to give him a gift, seeing his admission to Mila's is right around the corner, and he had thought they would be coming here to buy a few elixirs and artifacts at best. But this is on a totally different scale. After offloading several bags in Jaehyun's hands, she proposes they go take a look at armor now, but Jaehyun stops her and says they don't have to buy armor since he has something that he can use. He shows her a shadow armor equipment that he received from Nightshade that gives him the stealth skill once equipped. Since it's B-rank protective gear, he's certain that there's nothing they can buy that's better than this, especially since it also provides stealth. When Hana notices his armor has stealth skills, she asks him if he also needs an artifact that grants the stealth skill, since that's an item all raiders would desire, even though it would be difficult to obtain in a place like this. But Jaehyun says he doesn't. He adds that it would be difficult to get one unless he's lucky to find one in a dungeon, especially since there aren't that many people who learn stealth. Hana agrees because the only raider who possesses the skill in the country is her brother. She walks away right after saying that, and Jaehyun asks her what she means. So she informs him that manager Park Sung-jae is her brother. That information shocks Jaehyun, and as she walks away, he can't believe it because Hana and Sung-jae act nothing alike. Out of nowhere, his eyes begin to shine bright, and the Nornir system informs him that an unknown entity is resonating with him. He begins to feel queasy, and he suddenly sees a light trail that he had seen from the treasure gate. When he dashes back to follow the light, Hana calls out to him, but he tells her he's only going away for a moment. While he's following the light, his absolute Eye of God skill is activated and pierces through the false illusion and shows the truth. The system informs him that the absolute Eye of God's first low-rank skill has been opened, and he's obtained the skill called Detection. Detection is also an extraordinary rank skill that allows him to check unappraised items as well as invalidate an opponent's stealth or phantom skills. While he watches in surprise, the Nornir system activates the Detection skill. In another place, a close combat match occurs and is soon concluded after a guy named An Hoyan beats his opponent. Some men in the audience talk about how phenomenal Hoyan is, but clarify that the difference in his talent and that of his opponent is too obvious, which is the reason why they say he's a future S-rank raider. When Hoyan leaves the fighting ground, his father commends him for having done a good job. However, his father warns him not to get excited because this was an obvious win. With no excitement in his eyes, Hoyan states that he knows. So his father proposes he goes to prepare for the next planned activity and asks him to go take a shower. While he's in the shower, Hoyan thinks about how he despises this tiresome life where his own opinion and desires don't matter. The raider that he wanted to become was nothing like this, and he wonders when it turned out this way. In the store, the Nornir system presents our boy with an equipment item called Mistletoe, with a growth type rating, which is a mistletoe branch that ended the life of Odin's son, Balder. It grows alongside its user and contains an immeasurable amount of magic, and it allows the user to acquire the passive skill called Mana Perception once equipped. The Mana Perception skill is rated A, and it raises the user's ability to detect mana to the highest possible extent. Jaehyun is excited, but he wonders if this is one of the Nornir system's tricks, and as he keeps following the light, he walks past Hoyan. While Hoyan stands by, his father picks several pieces of equipment for him. When Hoyan asks if they need to buy this much, his father insists that they will all be of use to him since he's someone who will become an S-rank raider, and he doesn't need to be too stingy about such things. Hoyan further protests that spending this much will affect his mom's hospital fee for this month, but his father silences him. His dad insists that it is for him to worry about, and his job is to just focus on training, so Hoyan agrees with his dad as usual. While his dad continues buying, the boy wonders what the heck he's doing there. While he follows his dad through the store, several people who recognize him wonder what a combat genius like him is doing in this store. Meanwhile, Hoyan pays them no attention as some of them try to take pictures of him, and he wonders if this is truly the raider life he envisioned. He wonders what the difference is between this and being a monkey stuck in a zoo. When he was young and first awakened his abilities, his mother smiled softly at him and patted him on the head. He dreamt of becoming a raider in that dark and poverty-stricken house, because he was like a ray of light that could change everything. However, that light didn't last long in front of his father's wish to make use of it. Right now, as if he were a robot, he's merely a tool that continuously does as his father says. Right now, as if he were a robot, he's merely a tool that continuously does as his father says. He wonders if he can last for 3 years at Mills Academy when he's this pathetic. While they're walking around, a message comes through the speakers to inform all visitors that a dungeon break has occurred in the vicinity of the department store, and monsters have appeared. They're told the raiders sent by the agency are on their way, and they're asked to calmly follow the employees. By the way, dungeon breaks occur when a dungeon isn't cleared within the time limit, causing monsters to overflow from it. Some of the employees signal to the people to follow them and try to calm them down. As Hoyan's father goes towards the evacuation, he asks Hoyan why he's just standing behind and not following. His father reminds him that he's a genius with the potential for complete control over Korea in the future. If he gets hurt in a place like this, it will only become a disadvantage during the Mills enrollment event. He warns Hoyan that he won't gain anything from getting involved, but Hoyan still doesn't move an inch. The boy agrees with his father that the raiders from the agency should be able to quickly take care of the monsters. But while they're on their way, he wonders what will happen to all the civilians who don't have the strength to protect themselves. This is his chance, and he dashes in the opposite direction as his father orders him to come back. To Hoyan, this is his chance to prove that he can succeed as a raider. He tells himself that he has to make sure to know if his current self is anything like what he longed to show his mother when he was younger. While running, he has to pause when he runs into a group of gruesome-looking goblins who look both confused and excited to see him. For a moment, he just stands, and sweat starts to trickle down his face, and his body doesn't move at all like he had envisioned. The only movement from him is the tremor in his pupils, and as the monsters rush towards him, he realizes he can't move a single finger or take a single step. He tries to force his body to move, and as one goblin gets close enough to slice him with its sword, he wonders why he isn't moving when he had known this would be dangerous. and had dreamt of becoming a raider for so long. These are low-level monsters, and he wonders why he is scared of them. But before the monster can reach him, Jaehyun stomps it into the ground. Hoyeon watches in surprise, and he trips on his backside while this strange new person asks him if he's on Hoyeon. A while ago, our boy had bought an item in the store with 50,000 won from his own money when Hana called out to him in a panic. She asks him what is wrong and why he suddenly rushed over to the unappraised items corner. But she only sees a piece of rock in his hand that he had purchased. Jaehyun wonders if what he bought only looks like a piece of rock to other people. But he doesn't explain it to her, and he says it's nothing. While he's talking, the announcement comes through the speakers about the dungeon break that occurred in the vicinity of the department store. Before Hana can respond, our boy runs off again and breaks through the department store window to jump outside. Leaping downwards, he sees the group of goblins right under him. When he lands on the ground, he rains down several holy arrows on the monsters, taking down several of them instantly. As the others watch him in confusion, Jaehyun realizes there are more of them than he thought. It might be difficult to take care of them without any casualties, but he tears through their little goblin flesh with his lightning chain, and more onslaughts of holy arrows. As he jumps across the city, he finds Hoyeon ambushed by several goblins, and he leaps on the stupid goblin that's about to clap the boy. Confused, Jaehyun asks the boy if he's on Hoyeon. Our boy hadn't expected that he would meet the unfortunate genius at a place like this. An Hoyeon, who's still shaken, asks who he is, but our boy doesn't reply and informs him that he'll be needing his help. While Jaehyun is still talking, Hoyeon notices a goblin behind him and warns him, but Jaehyun doesn't move an inch and tells him he knows. Without turning around, our boy activates his lightning chains and tears through the upper body of the zombie like knife through butter. Hoyeon's eyes widen, but Jaehyun tries to explain to him that they can't let the monsters reach the residential area. When our boy asks him if he's just going to keep sitting on the floor, he quickly gets up to get a weapon. It's strange, but the moment Hoyeon heard those words, the fear that was suffocating him disappeared. This is who a raider is, and what he has to do right now is save people. They walk a bit further and run into another group of goblins. Jaehyun asks Hoyeon if he knows how to use a skill called taunt, a skill that provokes enemies in the surrounding area, so he asks the boy to keep the monster's attention on him and to provoke as many as possible. Jaehyun asks him if he can do that, and Hoyeon nods in approval. As he summons his sword, Hoyeon realizes he can't hesitate any longer and has to do whatever he can. He activates his active skill, known as Taunting Roar, and sticks his sword in the ground, releasing a huge amount of energy that causes all the monsters in a 50-meter radius to watch him. The Taunting Roar skill draws the attention of all the goblins, and Jaehyun realizes that Taunting Roar is a skill higher level than Taunt, and he's surprised that this boy can use it continuously. Jaehyun recalls his past life and that before he regressed, Hoyeon only became a B-rank raider. There's no mention of whether it's because of the weak mentality he showed a while ago or some other reason. Contrary to his present fame, Hoyeon had a quick downfall, and that's why he was called the unfortunate genius. However, Jaehyun believes that a weak temperament can be fixed. As Jaehyun activates his lightning chain, he's certain that Hoyeon is a valuable card that he can make good use of. During the fight, he proposes to Hoyeon that they end this in a jiffy, and the boy excitedly agrees. As Jaehyun's chains tear through goblin flesh, Hoyeon slices them up. Soon after, the ground is littered with goblin corpses, and when one of the raiders arrives, he wonders what on earth happened here. The boys watch him expressionlessly, and the man introduces himself as Park Kyung-hoon from the raider agency, asking the boys if these goblins were taken care of by the two of them. Glancing at Jaehyun, Hoyeon says they were, and Raider Kyung-hoon recognizes his facial features as belonging to the famous An Hoyeon. Kyung-hoon has heard a lot of people call him a genius, but he should only be at an age to enter high school. The other guy standing next to Hoyeon seems to be of a similar age, but he still can't believe that they took care of these many monsters by themselves. Confused, Kyung-hoon confesses that he doesn't know how to report this to the higher-ups. However, Jaehyun mentions that he wanted to talk to him about that. He asks Kyung-hoon to say the agency took care of things since no one would believe that they were the ones who killed all these goblins anyway. Confused, Kyung-hoon states that this is a clear violation of the law, but our boy explains that it would only be if there were anyone who saw what went down. Kyung-hoon explains that since they're a governmental organization, it's not something he can take care of any way he wants, but he assures him that he'll keep everything on a down low if he doesn't want to attract any attention. He adds that the boys will receive the reward for hunting the monsters. However, Jaehyun states that it's fine and proposes that he give all the reward to Hoyeon and keep the fact that he was here a secret. Since he's been sponsored by Manhwa, he's not lacking money either way, and it's better not to attract too much attention with the Mills enrollment coming up. Also, he considers this as a way of having An Hoyeon in his debt, which would be much more beneficial. After a short pause, Kyung-hoon asks them if that's all, but as Jaehyun is about to leave, Hoyan asks him what he means by what he said since he's the one who did everything. Our boy stops and explains to him that he has his own circumstances. The truth is, he doesn't plan to attract the interest of his father this close to the mill's enrollment. He didn't pay attention to it before he regressed, since his combat aptitude was so low. But he plans to pay attention to it now. His father still doesn't know that he shifted his focus to magic, and he doesn't know what problems might occur if he learns of his actions. Right now he decides he needs to lie low, because revenge should be as quiet and covert as possible. He needs to grow strong where that man can't see him, and wait for the very last moment before ripping his throat out. Meanwhile, Hoyan wonders what he should do. He couldn't have done this by himself, so it's not right for him to take this person's credit like this. But with this money, he might be able to relieve his mother's disease, even if just a little bit. He wanted to be a raider that wouldn't have to stand in shame before others, but if, because of that, he missed a chance and his mother were to pass away, he doesn't know if he would be able to hold on. Jaehyun watches him, and he figures that Hoyan's trouble with accepting this doesn't seem to be his pride, and he wonders if there's another reason. To help him choose, Jaehyun asks him to think carefully because his actions were clearly worth that much. He reminds him that if he hadn't moved, someone would have lost their life. So Hoyan agrees that he's right, especially because his dream would become meaningless if he hesitates like this, and his mother dies. Eventually, he assures Jaehyun that he'll pay back this debt someday. As Jaehyun proceeds to take his leave, Hoyan asks him for his name and contact number. Jaehyun notices he's speaking to him using polite speech, so he reminds him he doesn't have to since they're the same age. But he informs him that they're both prospective cadets at the Mills Academy, so they should be seeing each other more often. On the day of the Mills Academy enrollment, Jaehyun and Yoojung are seen in the crowd. Meanwhile, some other students spot Hoyan, whom they refer to as the genius warrior, and they speculate that he's a totally different species from them. They notice a beautiful lady behind him, and it turns out her name is Seo Ina. Our boy notices that Ina is already gathering attention, as is expected of someone whose name was always on the list of most popular raiders in his past life. If he could bring Seo Ina over to his side as well, he would have more cards to use. But the only problem is that she's different from the others, so there's no need to force things right now, especially since he already knows other resourceful people. Suddenly, Yoojung interrupts Jaehyun's thinking by saying it's disgusting to keep staring at Seo Ina like that, no matter how pretty she is. But Jaehyun asks her what nonsense she's spouting. Soon after, a man steps on the podium and tells the new cadets of Mills Academy that it's nice to meet them. He introduces himself as Chairman Gu Jae-in, and our boy recognizes the face of the chairman from his past life, and calls him a bastard in his mind because he had done something wrong to Kim Yoojung. He turns to her and tells her to be resolute because no one knows what might happen at Mills, but she wonders why he's suddenly saying that and assures him that she's going to do really well. After enrolling, Kim Yoojung was a genius who made it to the top 3 of the magician's ranking, and Jaehyun assures himself that he won't let her die this time.